So to start this session, we have had some feedback for folks that, depending on the media that you play this on, the audio quality is not the best. Played on phone from YouTube, I've not had any issues, but some folks listen to it from home computer. I know, for example, listening to it on my laptop, it doesn't play as loud and crisp as I would like it. So we invested in a Bluetooth microphone, one for each of us. So that should help clarify the sound quality, even though Samsung, like, it's excellent. But just to clear up so it plays on all formats clearly to make sure it's not a hassle for people, Molly. We did order a technological upgrade. So at that point, once it gets here, which actually just came today, I'll get it set up for next session and we'll test it out and make sure it works for everything, and that'll be good to go. That should take care of that issue. This is actually take 2 of a session. We tried this yesterday. And both of us pretty much had a much enthusiasm of doing it for that day, you know, as doing taxes. And so pretty much Spirit said, I'm out.
And I like doing taxes.
Weirdo. So, yeah, so at that point, Spirit's like, nope. And pretty much said, you know, we're not doing this, and left. So we're trying it again today because we're both more enthused, because actually we have better subjects to actually come up and have a conversation with. For this meeting, it's going to run a little bit differently because I'm going to hijack it. You guys are going to be able to witness a personal answer for stuff that I'm going through. If you're following along with the channel sessions on information they give me and Diary of a Channel, when I actually discuss how to put it in practical use, then anything I'm about to say will actually be, you know, you'll be right on board with it, saying, oh, I see what's going on here. You know, if not, it may seem a bit strange. I'm not going to go into full explanation of it for you. You know, catch up, and you know, it's a process of watching, you know, changes unfold. So I can't do it all in one meeting. But in short, the question that I'm going to be having with Spirit today is about our move. We're looking to go ahead and move ever since they did the Roe versus Wade thing, which I'm sure everyone is aware of. The whole gay rights thing is brought into question, and we currently live in Florida. You know, why is that a concern? Because there is no doubt if Florida leadership can get their foot in that door, they will. They'll go running.
Well, they already have the Parental Education Rights Act, so that's the first step.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing after another. They've already put out their agenda as far as how they want Florida to run in the future, as far as what they're planning to do. And it's really not in our best benefit to stay. You know, why? It's not a matter of politics, even though that's what's affecting us. In one fell swoop, if they turn around and say gay marriage is not legal, you know, just off our daily lives, I'd be immediately kicked off of the health insurance. The house comes up in question, and even if you ever says, you know, get it done in a will, you know, family can still argue a will in court and have that right because your partner doesn't have legal status as a married couple. And so it comes in question of, you can legally, if you choose to, you know, fight insurance policies, you know, possessions based on family over personal preference. And that's something to really take into account, is that your marriage now just got turned into a personal preference and is open to interpretation. You're not protected by law. And while a will is supposed to be solid, there are tons of cases where it is fought in court, and instead of dealing with the grief of a loss of a mate, you know, and then dealing with the insurance policies and what you have left over, which, let's face it, in this economy is never enough, you're now legally spending that money to fight to keep whatever's going to be left over of it and making lawyers rich. It has a lot of implications. So we're looking at going ahead and doing the move for that reason. Spirit has said we were going to move and that it would happen naturally. And there's a lot between that and the channel sessions that just, for me, is bringing up, pushing buttons of patterns that I don't like. And so that's what I'm going to be asking them to discuss today to clarify. I know Mansoor and another person, Molly, had a question asking them about God, which, in all truth, looking at it, they've approached God in the vaguest of terms. They haven't really clarified what that is and how that personal relationship works personally. So I think it's a fascinating question. But realistically, looking at it because of time constraints today, I don't really see us fitting the Almighty into such a narrow section. So probably that's going to be held over to another meeting. But we'll see what their agenda is and how that works. They may have a 5-minute answer for me and say next. So we'll go from there. The basis of my question to Spirit today is, it's warning signs to me and frustrations with the whole channel sessions. You know, we do it every week, sometimes more than once a week. Do the videos, upload it, keep all that organized. You know, been doing it for several months now. Before this session, there's another YouTube channel out there with me doing it with Woman of the Forest. And I've been doing this in one way or another all my life. You know, there's a book that I wrote for channeled work. And my experience with it has been, I've done several test readers. They never get through it. They stop reading it. You know, the Ethos Communion channel has hardly any interaction. The Spirit Decoded has, you know, hardly any interaction. There's a video that I need to correct because the last like 30 seconds of sound cut off, which I'm gonna reload to get that corrected. But it's been months and I haven't been in a rush to do it because no one's listening. So I know it's not gonna be one of those things that someone listens to and like, oh my God, what happened to the last 30 seconds? What did they say? How did they end? No one's listening to it, you know. And so it becomes a whole point for me personally of, you know, one of those, let me see if I get this straight. You know, my purpose is supposed to be opening up a school to train channels. Interesting. Do I feel that to be true? Yes. You know, I've come to the conclusion of that's what I've always was meant to do. It's what I'm good at. That and talking to people and helping them past issues. You know, always been good at that. Do it through readings, do it through channel sessions, do it, you know, through friendships. It's one of the reasons why people are attracted to me, because of that always coming out of me.
And the good looks.
And the good looks. So, with all that being said, you know, then you have to be a realistic reader and live life. And whenever I've done channel sessions, you know, I can't sell it because no one wants to hear it, no one watches it, no one interacts with it. And the people that are doing it because they know me and out of some sense of loyalty. And even those that I know, I've offered and said that it's there and available that are interested in this type of subject, and it's a resounding pushback no every single time. So it's one of those things of concerning the move and changing a lot in my life right now. It's like we're giving up the security financially of the nest egg that we have here. This house was bought when the market was low. The market's not low right now. So in trading out, we're going to gain more of a financial income burden in order to move. Okay, it makes sense logically why we have to, because of political reasons. That's clear. But the aspect of moving to another location, looking at price-wise, we can't afford to live in a liberal area because it's more expensive than the country conservative area. Always is. So unless we move there, it's gonna downsize to us like 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and not much else. And even then, we're paying more than what we have here. So it means moving to a conservative area where things are more affordable for our financial gain, and somehow spreading out so that my business has room and is not in the house. So where does the spirituality come into play? Well, it's supposed to be an area that I'm going to, where this will be wanted to be heard and needed. Okay, that sounds fantastical. And it really comes down to a basic principle. In my life, whether it's been job, relationships, I used to be the hard worker because I'm going to prove myself to you. I'm going to show that I'm a cut above the other employees, because in the end, you're going to reward me with a promotion, more money, something to equal the effort that I'm putting in. Never happened. Doesn't happen. I always end up in the same place. Relationships. I'm going to prove that I love you by going through all this bull crap and walking through the fire with you. And while the person says, thank you, I needed all that, it doesn't mean that they actually give that back to me. And so here I am now, doing all this effort.
He's saying this in front of me.
And it occurs to me that it's not like I'm asking much, expecting much. I don't want at this point in time a large group of followers, although that would be great for the channel, don't get me wrong. But honestly, I don't know if I'm ready to handle such attention. But is it too much to expect a random person to find it and be touched by the information and leave a response that shows that this is important to them? Because it's been for many years flying blind and no response. If I get involved with spiritual friends in some form or some way, it's actions taken to somehow tell me I'm doing something wrong with this, and it's not what it's supposed to be. Always a way to cloud my clarity versus support my clarity. And you add all these factors up, and it really boils down to a line in Madonna's song, I think it's the first album, where it says, how did she put it? She said, I learned my first lesson, and I'll only give as much as I can take. And it's not that I want to take with this, but it's about energy exchange, and that's her point. What's the point of doing and giving all this energy out if there's nothing giving it back? All you're doing is expending. And I'm okay with this being nothing more than from mine and his benefit. It makes it simple. It really does. It's for me, it's for him. Learn the lessons and be at peace and go about my life. But it's been inferred that this is more than that. And at this point in time, it's looking at all of these changes coming into my life and taking financial risks that you can't recover from. It's not so simple. And why move from our nest egg if I can't even prove that this is interesting work? That there's someone interested in it. That there's someone that says, wow. And it's not the information that Spirit gives. I think anyone who's watching the series knows I'm highly critical, especially of myself. And so if I was producing crap through these lessons, I'd say it. Mansour has witnessed me several times question directly information he gave as to the clarity and going through changes until I found out, oh, they were right. Because I don't like putting out bullcrap. It's not serving, and it's wasting my time and other people's time. So I'm pretty critical that way. But as a channel, for the stuff that they've been doing and the information they've been giving, I've never witnessed another channel information give stuff with this type of clarity. So I believe in the work, I believe in what's being said, I believe in these conversations. It doesn't make, I'm not saying it's the best, that's not what I'm saying, but it certainly has a good clarity, it certainly has a good point. So it's not that I'm questioning the information, it's not about spirit making us better, because it's not about them, it's about my relationship to what is supposedly my higher self. And there comes a point in time where it's like, if this is the purpose, I'm going to need them to work a little bit harder to show that. I'm going to need them to put forth, however that comes out, to start showing that there's something happening here. Because otherwise, I'm looking at it of, Spirit said it last meeting. If someone's telling you that the solution is in the future and they can't tell you when, but you're supposed to blind faith follow it, run. And it occurred to me, with all of these changes that equal physical, financial change and risk, something that you can't take back, something that can't be reversed. It doesn't mean we're not going to be okay, but it's, in a real world, as an adult, a big risk. Why am I doing this if the answer's in the future? And right now, I can't even prove anyone is interested in this. There are tons of videos out there that hasn't, probably 3 months, hasn't gotten a single watch, a single view. And people that I know that I've done readings for, hey, you're into spiritual work, there's this channel here, nope, not interested. Oh, do you want to test read the book? Sure, absolutely. They're gone. No feedback, no nothing, they stop reading. There's something off here, and so the point of today's meeting will be how the Spirit addressed this for me, gaining clarity, being clear, not coming to them like it's their responsibility to work out. They just come through and give the message. To put them into that position puts them, even though I know a certain part of me is, but puts them into the position like treating them like they're some type of divine power that has a say. It's my life. This is between me, my purpose, and higher self. So what am I missing? But if I continue doing this and there's nobody being affected by these words, besides what's in this room, if there's nobody willing to listen, if there's no interaction, then this is not a path, this is a hobby. And one, as an adult, shouldn't base major changes on their life based on the hopes of a hobby. And again, I don't think I'm asking for much of saying, with all this time, one person showing an interest, saying what it meant to them, that I didn't ask to listen to it because they were led to it. Spirit talks all the time about when things like this occur, it's about agreement between higher selves, that part of our brain, our minds, working together in harmony. Well, silence is an answer. Yep. And it's one of the things I found to be true that was the hardest thing for me to accept in relationships. You want desperately for this initiative to be talked about. You want it to be resolved. You want to be acknowledged. You want an answer. You want a response. And you go crazy doing all these things for other people to prove that you're safe and that you can get a response, but they never do. And it's one of the things I missed, which I've learned. Silence is a response, and silence is an answer. And the answer is no. The sooner you accept that, the less tortured you are. And so I'm beginning to wonder with all this, if this is falling into that zone. It's great to hear about, Spirit saying that there will be people that will be attracted and want to hear this, that it's coming. Well, in order for that to happen, I have to be going someplace. And based off of right now, I can't prove that theory to be true at all. Not off of the now. And that kind of becomes a concern. So where's the issue? Something I need to know, something I need to do. What's the truth here? So at this point, I'll step out and let Spirit speak on this and see what they say. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters.
Good afternoon. Take two.
Take two. And obviously, this time you two are engaged.
Very much so.
On a side note, we would have preferred to talk about God. But let us deal with the issues at hand.
Yes.
Because they are important and they are valid.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes into purpose. And our son is not wrong with saying that some type of response should be generated. And it comes down to him being open to having that. He talks often of the fact that he is not ready, and that attention given would fuel his ego. This circles back to what we originally gave the lesson to him about what happened in his Atlantis and his guilt. It is blocking him. He is blocking himself. He is capable of many things. But to have that manifest and project within the world, he blocks. It is an issue of communication between him and himself, of allowing that energy to flow through and become real, become expected. He is correct in his premise that you should only give what you can take. The issue for him is in the word take. He is currently doing Reiki sessions. One of them was 4 hours today.
Mm-hmm.
For no money.
They're minimum 2 or 3 hours.
And he is doing great work. He's
great work, yeah.
changing that man's life. Spiritually, it will be known that the change of patterns for many lives for this man was this introduction, this moment. And it was meant to happen.
Could you repeat that one more time?
Absolutely. Spiritually, it will be known that after a pattern of many lives, this meeting, this introduction, changed the pattern for this man.
With this client?
Correct.
Ah.
That is the role he is playing. He is transforming this man's life and possibility and understanding what it is capable of. And he does it easily, with very little effort. Because this is his purpose. This is what he's chosen to do. What he also chooses is to not have this reflect in some type of physical abundance or response. And those are hard words. We can feel him reacting to it. But yet it is true. And so we wait with anticipation for him to finally release the binds that he has bound himself with, so that things can move ahead in ways that they need to. But he has to decide that not only is he capable of dealing with those physical results, but that's expected and normal. So still to this day, he doesn't have a problem giving. He has a problem taking. Translating that into receiving. And even when he discusses receiving abundance from the universe, he puts limits on it. He filters it through false morals. We would point out to him that how the universe gives back is none of his business. It doesn't have to jump through the hoops of acceptableness that he thinks makes it okay. Learn to simply say, thank you. He does a prayer over his food. He says, thank you for the life that is sacrificed to feed me. Allow this energy to course through and energize my body. And as it does, let it be transferred as energy to go back out and bless others. Abundance from the universe is no different than the energy equation he used in thanking the food. Does it matter how the food got on the plate, or that there was something to eat, something to be thankful for, and something to eternalize and charge to give back? Something to practice.
I did not know that about him.
He does it all the time. Well, often. if he gets to the state of him being super hungry and forgetting to eat, he just eats. As he would say, like a starving man coming out of the desert. And so he needs to expand his thought that the abundance received is fuel for the fire.
Well, one thing is the money coming in and the extra money coming through my work. I had to basically force the money at him in order for him to accept it. And I think he still holds a lot of guilt, shame. He holds a lot of unhealthy beliefs about the money given to him from my work.
Correct. Understand what they are based on. You give out of selfless love. And while he acknowledges and understands that, emotionally he does not know how to interpret that. It is not normal. And so begins the war. You can intellectually understand something and emotionally feel horrible about it. He grew up in an environment where if something was given, it was to get you with it later.
Mm-hmm.
If something was given, it was conditioned and filtered through shame. And if something was given, it was only because they wanted to hold it because they believed they now had power over you from it. And these concepts in this world should not be a new idea. They are quite common. And so he held himself accountable for accepting such gifts and learned to say no. Learn not to need them. Learn to do without. And learned if you wanted it, get it yourself.
And I think a really good example of it that was tough for me to see, but I had to learn that I can't do anything about this. I did what I could, was seeing him spend hours and weeks building a contraption to help support the AC unit when we were able to get a new one financed. We were completely able to, and I wanted him to realize, and I know he used the excuse of him feeling like he's unable to provide for the household. And that was a physical event that just tore at my heart, watching him work so hard on it. And then realizing it's not going to work.
Correct. And we go back to the parable of the air conditioner. And there is the emotional side that's there. There are methods and way that he grew up that he has not let go of yet. And what he has not realized is that at the time, they allowed him to rise above his situation. They were great tools. One that he should be grateful for. And this is something that everyone should take note on. That what is holding you back today was highly valued at its time. You should be grateful for it. It got you out of your situation, even if it was done harshly. You used it as a tool to rise above, out of the current situation. And so you climbed, so you changed, so things became better. Here's where it goes wrong. It's the emotional attachment to those things because you believed and therefore created that it would protect you emotionally. And perhaps that was true with the situation you were dealing with. But as we have discussed before, how does it work grabbing one color to paint the world around you? Everything one color, everything one blanket answer, everything one way. You miss out on the beauty of life. And so emotionally, that needs to be released. You are no longer a prisoner of such situations, but you act like it.
And by this, do you mean an example would be the frugal mindset, or the mindset of, wow, I'm going to sound elitist here, but the impoverished mindset of understanding that having that mindset helps you get through in your low income situation, but once you rise above that, that mindset of not enough, of extreme frugality doesn't serve you anymore.
Correct.
Okay.
It does in very rare situations, ones that you had risen above. But if I ever fall back down, I'm already set for it.
Mm-hmm.
But you miss out on all the other situations of enjoyment. Life doesn't become breathing. Life becomes and waiting for another shoe to drop. A shoe that you worked hard to make sure you resolved. But yet emotionally, you won't act like it's resolved.
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, you do. Emotionally, you do not. And you leave that part into what you call your subconscious mind. We will call it that which you choose to ignore. But subconscious makes it so much more socially acceptable, don't you agree?
Mm-hmm.
We have no control. It's subconscious. It's nothing we can grasp and understand. It's subconscious. We just accept that we constantly clean up the mess after it. And ignore the depression and sadness it brings us. And then call it life. Life as you perceive it, but certainly not the possibilities of life. And this would be another fine situation of it.
Thank you. I know. How dare they?
And so the issue here, he is correct that it's between him and the part of his mind he calls the higher self. But the issue is not the higher self. The issue is him. Because he's not allowing it to flow. He's not allowing it to be full abundance. He is fine with doing the work. But whether he realizes it or not, removing himself from the job solved nothing.
What do you mean, removing himself from the job? Oh, from his previous employment.
That is why he left, was it not?
Mm-hmm.
Because he got sick and tired of doing for others and not getting rewarded. So he wanted to become self-employed, so that only he would be accountable for him. And after all this time, emotionally, he's tied to the same desk doing the same thing. We certainly do not request this of him. The part of his mind that is called the higher self is only going to teach the gift God gave. Well, that only leaves one part of the triangle. And this is not complicated. It is a shift in perception.
Well, it's interesting because when the going gets tough for him and he really feels like he hit rock bottom, his immediate response and what he says is always, I'd be better off going back to my job. I'd be better off going back to my job. And I always think there was a reason he left. And it's not going to resolve anything that you're working through.
There is a point to him saying that. At his old job, he would have a steady income. He would have a financial say. He would have power to plan, power to do. He would have a cash flow. And in this world, one cannot simply dismiss that truth. So there is a point to what he's saying. But the point we would make is that what you have now is exactly what you'll have then, which is what you had before. Nothing's really shifting or changing. So the question becomes, are you done trying to change and ready to accept what you've determined to be your fate? Is there no other possibilities for you? No other way to perceive this? And what he has not seen is that when he hits rock bottom, he often gets into a depression, does he not?
Mm-hmm.
And he gets melancholy and sad. And he looks at it as a result of what's transpiring, and of course, the brilliance of his mind, how to have a solution to fix it, how to stop this from happening, how to make sure this does not happen again. And while this has seen him through harder times, what he's missing is in that core of sadness is actually the guilt, actually the shame. Him blocking him. And so it does not matter where he goes. Go to a job. Get a regular paying job. Stay self-employed. Do Reiki full time. You will still find yourself waiting. It isn't a question of what he's doing. It's a question of what he's being. Always was, always will be. And so in this issue, he cannot involve the part of his mind that is the higher self, because his will is constantly cycling through the same scenario. Change this, change that, change this, change that. But the emotional dance remains the same. And we give him the same advice we gave you. Observe. Observe. And so you're depressed. And so you're sad. Don't try to fix it. Observe it. What is its purpose? What is it doing within your psyche? How is it affecting you? How does it paint your perceptions? Fuel it. Let the flames flame higher. Let it burn and observe. What is its story? Or claim that it's subconscious and move on. A good bottle of wine, a pack of cigarettes, and some sleep will do me wonders. Something to distract me. Don't avoid it. Enter it. Know its truth. And he was correct in his interpretation, trying to word and be careful about how to phrase this without blaming. Are you blaming spirit? Are you blaming the higher self? What do you want? It's three sides of the same triangle. It's all connected. Whom do you blame? And always, he looks to the two sides in some form or some way.
The two sides being spirit and higher self.
Which is the same doorway as God. Correct. Always the two sides of the triangle, which is a spiritual attachment he's working to get rid of. And the way he worded it showed it today. But still the subtleties of it is there. Those two sides of the triangle will only agree with what you're doing on your side. What are you doing on your side becomes the question. Observe, study, explore. It won't kill you. Although, for a time period, you may feel like it is. You won't die. There is nothing to be afraid of. Enter your own darkness. And greet it as a revered house guest. There is that line from the song, I don't believe in demons. All my demons have become my friends. There are no demons here. Only an aspect that's waiting to become a friend. And so our advice to him, although he may not like it, is at the point of the triangle he seeks is that which he already is. The question is, why? What are you getting out of it? How has it served you? And how is it serving you now? If you truly want a new experience, a clearer sense of purpose, not for us, not because you're channeling for us, but the work you'll be doing with us, that is your purpose. To join us in that work. It is not, in that sense, about us being us spirit. It's about us, spirit, and him as spirit. God plus God equals God. So let's do the math. Our side of the equation checks true. We are like that which created us. The end of it still is as it was, as it always has been. Well, that leaves one side of the equation. Which one doesn't believe in the energy of God? And so it comes back to him. And to be clear, it's not because he hasn't tried. Trying is not his issue. Working hard is not his issue. Is it?
Oh, no.
Do you know anyone else that works as hard as he does?
Nope. Stubborn as hell, maybe sometimes not the most effective, but he works hard.
And so it's not effort, and in that he is right, but he still thinks effort produces results. Doing produces results. And while that is always essential in creating something physical, we're not going to boil it down to, why is this so difficult? I create from my couch. Philosophy. Private joke. Doing is implied, but doing is not enough. And in this, concerning abundance, everyone should take note. Spirit just said, doing is not enough. So to answer your questions, why do you see so many people who work hard but then don't achieve? The answer is, doing is not enough. Somewhere in here, there has to be being. And here's the key to understanding the difference. For those that do, they have it firmly set that after doing so much, they will be. And as we have discussed before, that is a miscreation in process, because you are chasing yourself into the future, fully expecting when you meet yourself there, you will have your state of being because you've earned it. We will repeat something that he said in his Reiki session today with the person, because it was powerful. And that's the benefit he's getting from doing these sessions, is that he's learning his own mind while serving another. But that's always the effect. It's always the benefit. If you wish to know of God, you must give it away. And therein you find yourself. You find your purpose. What he had told the individual, they were speaking about during one of the earlier sessions about him going out into a social situation. And our son pointed out that while he was getting dressed, there was a moment while putting on his clothes of addressing himself in his imaginary world inside and saying, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not built enough, I'm not masculine enough, and no one's going to like me. And he got to a social situation and had a horrible time. The client had come complaining about the horrible time. Our son reversed it to what happened in the bedroom while he was getting ready and asked him to go over his thoughts and emotions while he was getting ready for the event. And taught him the which came first, the chicken or the egg. You loaded a preset perception and belief about yourself before you went to the event. And then encountered a bunch of people that said, I agree with you, I agree with you, I agree with you. And even if they weren't agreeing with you, you thought they were agreeing with you because that's all you were perceiving. Why else would they be approaching me? A self-manifestation come true. The person in this session asked a question of clarity, of understanding worth without condition. Because this time when he was going out to a party, which happened to be a nude pool party, no shields, everything dangling and free to be seen. And he said this time he loaded positive, that okay, I'm not going to have the body that everyone else is going to have. I know there are going to be men there that are bigger than me in that area. But I'm going to be okay and I'm going to have a good time. First off, look at that thought process. Let me list out all the reasons why I'm not enough, and then list out I'm going to be okay with it anyway. And the person went and had much communication with many of the people at the party and had a great time. And he was quite proud of himself for loading that up and having it work out that way. It was for him a major accomplishment to not automatically load the negative and go, and load the positive. So what do you mean about just being okay? I don't understand. And our son shared with him and said, let's take it out of the perspective of how you think about yourself, and let's apply that to another. He said, often a person can't understand the way they're talking to themselves until they see them talking to another in that way. And he said, you and I are going to the pool party. And of course, because I'm going to be next to you, this is going to affect how people see you. Because I'm with you. It's going to affect perceptions. And so now, why don't we take that gauge of acceptableness and apply it to me? Ask yourself, am I pretty enough? Is my body okay? Let me take off my clothes. Is my penis big enough? that it's not going to bring you shame by me standing next to you. Do I laugh too loud? What's wrong with me? And he saw the person's face change. And he said, what's the matter? Do you have a problem thinking about me that way, but you're okay with thinking about yourself that way? What was the difference? And he said, often we think about others in that way and use it as a tool to feel better about ourselves. Because if you're not as built as I am, or you're smaller down there than I am, then I'm not the worst. That makes me okay. Poor you. But I will certainly join in other people talking about you that way. Because, again, it confirms, I'm okay, you're not. And as long as someone else is not okay, then I'm okay. I can have a good time. He said, do you have a problem seeing your mind manifested this way? And the man was astounded at what he saw. And he said, this is the way, still the way you're treating yourself. And he said, let me answer your question. And he explained to him, he said, thinking about yourself in positive terms is still just as much of an illusion as thinking about yourself in the negative terms. It's duality. There's this and there's that. There's good and there's bad. And your mind calculates these odds all the time and measures on where you fall, constantly judging yourself and those around you. He said, now to answer your question, how do you feel worthy if you don't calculate justifications? And he said, because being worthy has no justification. It's a state of being. And it's one you did not create. It is only one you accept. And he said, now imagine it. You bring your mind to the point of accepting a worthiness that doesn't need to be justified. He said, now calculate all of the ifs and thens, the this and the that, the good and the bad, the okay but better, and quiet that noise, because it's no longer needed. What would your mind be like? What type of peace would you have? And so understanding worthiness of how you have it with no justification is understanding that it requires none. None. Only acceptance. And he said, the first step to AA is understanding that you're powerless over your addiction. He said people in AA call it the most powerful step. And it's the one that most beginners stumble over because they look at powerlessness as weakness. And it's not. It's strength. It's surrender. It's finally realizing that all of that duality of good, bad, and indifferent has nothing to do with worth. It's a state of being. We did not create it. We only need to accept it. and it's a choice. Everything up to this point in time was a waste of time and energy. Needless to say, this had quite a profound effect on the man's perceptions of life possibilities and how he treats himself. And our son ended it by saying, understand, the moment you try to seek it is the moment that you lost it.
The moment that you what?
Lost it.
Lost it, yes.
Because worthiness does not require seeking, only acceptance. And the moment that you try to seek it is the moment you are justifying why you deserve it. First step, I am powerless. I don't need to do anything, only accept it. Now, translating that back to our son, for his issues, he can continue with the drama of the game that is unfolding. If he feels a need to continue doing it, by all means, we will give him the same advice he gave this morning, which is getting to that point of powerlessness and accepting the worthiness at face value is a state of mind, one to accept. And the man asks, is it normal to be afraid of that? And our son laughed and said, absolutely. Of course. Because only a fool would not realize that accepting such grace wholeheartedly as an ultimate truth would not radically change reality as you know it. Every single relationship, every single event, everything that you perceive would change instantly. In a sense, you would no longer have a way to relate to life and would have to relearn how to, based on this core belief of the truth. In order to have the one, you must exchange the all. Because there can only be one point in your perception. This and that, or it is. And he said, and as we now tell him, you may not be ready for that. You may not be ready to give up your G.I. Joe dolls. Take responsibility for that. Do not shame yourself, do not guilt yourself, and do not avoid it. If you are not done playing with the toys, then play and have fun. Be dramatic. Grab your fan and flip it open twice with flair. Make sure people know that you are there. Have fun with the drama, but observe it. Enjoy it. And all of its multitude of expressions of pain and suffering. Accept it. G.I. Joe dolls. It's limited. There are only so many ways you can play G.I. Joes that before you get bored and you put the toys away, you'll always remember them fondly. But that doesn't mean you can go back into the bedroom and play with them today like you did then. Because you grew beyond such expression. But you wholeheartedly enjoyed it at the moment. Enjoy it. Express it. If you are not worthy of abundance, enjoy it. If you are not worthy of a return, enjoy it. By enjoying it through acceptance, it would be the only way through it. Because by being conscious of it playing out, you will finally go through all of its machinations, all of the exquisite painfulness that it can possibly offer. Creative in burdening yourself till you think your back will break, and then do it some more, consciously, enjoying it. Allow it to its fullest expression, and eventually you will come to the point of growing bored with the expression because it becomes repetitive. The truth of your lives, multiple, is that it has been repetitive, extremely repetitive. But the game goes on because you call it subconscious. The garbage file of that which you choose not to perceive. The illusion that humans are only aware of 10% of their brain. And that is all you're capable of. 90% runs of subconscious. We call bull. What you call subconscious, we call the constructs you use to give your life purpose as much as you say you hate it. Because you love to hate it. You love it being painful. You love being disappointed. And you love getting to the point that your hand goes to the heart, I just can't take it anymore. And then to the forehead. Oh my, where's my fainting couch? Life after life after life, repetitively. And like our son, what do? You look to the other two sides of the triangle. That's my problem. The universe does not like me. The Holy Ghost, Spirit, angels, whatever. I pray and they don't answer. I am alone. I am forgotten. I am helpless. And we on our side say, it's your free will if you choose that. That is up to you. And that alone, being dominant, is why we can't teach true will yet. is not to the point that you get to answer the question we originally asked. And if your mind in that one moment expanded to such a state of peace, centered and being, that made you feel alive, what does that say about the true state of your mind? And until you can stand before us and give an answer with a surety what that means, you are not ready to understand true will, because you are still trying to understand what you're doing with your will. True will comes from a state of being. And until a state of being becomes your purpose, there is no point in talking about what you can will from a state of being. And so we continually come to teach about what you are not willing, by willing it so. And we have said this before, and we will say it again, and we don't mean this to be insulting, although it can be taken as such if you choose. In the realm of our minds as God created it, this is kindergarten. It's the bare bone basics. Are you conscious and do you exist? And we say to humanity, the better lessons comes once you understand what to answer. And what you do when you say you do exist, you are a state of being and you are conscious. There is so much more to learn. So much more to express, to experience, to create, to be. Enjoy. Enjoy or enjoy. It's a simultaneous state of being. I am in joy and I enjoy. I enjoy being in joy.
I like that.
Understand that, and you begin to understand the flow of eternity, constantly looping back and feeding off of itself, constantly ever increasing, constantly ever widening. But first, you must accept that what you're currently doing with your consciousness is condensing it in fear to the point that you feel like you want to leave the body.
Felt that yesterday, 100,000,000,000%, and I just laid in bed and breathed into it and just let it happen. I didn't realize how much I've been holding on to, that sense of unworthiness. And it's interesting to see how it paints every little aspect of the states I'm in throughout the day. So it was really cathartic to sit there and experience it, but realize it got to the point where I convinced, not I didn't convince myself, I thought, I understand why people want to commit suicide. I understand why people want to leave the body. So sit with it and see what happens. And it really wasn't bad. In a weird way, I was enjoying it because I was finally letting my body just relax into it and experience it. It was being okay with experiencing that amount of shame and unworthiness.
And did you die?
No. I asked for a hug, and that was nice. It was just a reminder that it was nice. It was nice to be able to experience something so that we would consider so dreadful and be okay during it. Because it was an experience. I don't know how else to explain it. There's no words to explain it. It was just a very nice experience.
Exactly.
And it was an experience of, hey, it's okay to feel this and experience this, but no, it's not who you are. I am not this muscle tightness. I am not this butterflies in my stomach. I am not this tightening in my throat. I'm experiencing all this. And when you realize that these are sensations in your body and you're not your body, it's like going down a lazy river. You know, you just sit in the tube and you just flow with it, and it doesn't phase you. You react emotionally and everything, you're reacting, but I am okay. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone.
It does to us.
Yeah.
We give you a new exercise.
Okay.
When you go through moments such as that, and this will twist your mind, we say about connecting, and understand it's not a switch that you turn on or off. In other words, when you connect, it does not stop your life. It connects you to life, including that, and allows it to be transformed. Understand the energy dynamics behind it. So you're experiencing that moment of despair, and you are not connected. So what is filtering through your mind at that moment? Despair. It has your attention, correct?
Correct.
And so new outcomes from it become quite impossible because it's a pre-programmed movie.
Oh, being able to create from that is what you're saying. Being able to create from it is impossible.
Well, what new experiences can you gain? Because it's not going to change. The only thing that changes is its subtleties of tweaking your suffering. Let's add this aspect. Ooh, that was good. Let's add a little bit of spice here. Ooh, that hit the nerves raw. And how about adding this sense of hopelessness? I can't breathe. In that moment, the only thing you're being is despair. Are we wrong?
No.
And if that is your choice, enjoy it. Enjoy it. However, the exercise that we give you now is to connect, not to stop it, not to control it, not to tell it that it's wrong. But to connect. What do you have flowing through your mind now? The state of I am. And what does that do to anything that you perceive when you do?
For me, the experience is like, it was literally like watching a show. I'm not the show, I was sitting there watching it.
Exactly. Now that's observer self, not the same. In this, the peace that's flowing through the room, the energy of the trees outside, the earth emanating from beneath your feet, that sense of connection to what is, the energy that moves through all of that.
So what I'm understanding is I'm in the bed wallowing in despair, unworthiness. I can sit back and, oh look, I'm feeling unworthy. Okay, oh, it feels like this here. Okay, just sit with it, let it flow, experiencing it. Watch the drama unfold. That's the observer self.
Correct.
What you're saying with connecting is, while all that's going on, connect with the sound of the fan going off. Connect with the temperature of the room. Connect with the birds that are chirping outside.
And the energy that flows through all of it. And people assume that it stops the despair. It does not. People assume that two can't be in the same place at the same time. If this was true, then us communicating with you would be impossible. But yet it is. How do we come through our son's consciousness if that was going to be true? Because as you know, he can be dramatic. And yet here we are, at peace, communicating with you. So it is possible to have two in the same space in the same moment. And you are observing both at the same time. Now, science of energy. What happens when you are connected and the effect of that energy moving through your perceptions? Does it not expand those perceptions? What you saw as blockages and limitations in solid walls suddenly expand out and is no longer limited?
It felt like the electric collar on a dog realizing though there isn't actually a fence there.
Correct. So what would happen as the observer self if you allowed the two to come into the same space and be in the same moment? Now you have the drama unfolding, but you're observing it from the connected self and allowing it to flow through freely. We wonder what the connected self would do with such energy.
It would be like having David play the Twilight series on TV I can watch it and say, okay, I'm not interested, and then go off and do something else. Like being from that state of connectedness, I can see, oh, it's the same shit over and over. It's a little different here, okay, but there's more to do, and I can.
Here's the thing. It's understanding perspective roles. I'm powerless. It will do this. You don't know what it will do, and you don't need to know. You only need to observe it. Get out of your own way. When the higher mind aspect of your mind flows through, it is you. It is wisdom in motion. It is knowledge of what is. And you don't learn that by directing it. You learn it by observing it. And so you connect. And you have the illusion that you call your higher self shining through, a grander vision of your mind of what remembers the truth of what God created, and you accept it. That's your role. You accept it. You accept the gift, and you observe it, which allows it to channel freely through the perception that you call despair. We wonder what it would do with it. And you get to observe it. When you have an epiphany, are you directing the epiphany? Or does the epiphany direct you?
Yeah, you flow with it.
This is doing epiphany consciously. Connect. Allow the two to be in the same space and observe. Observe your mind being born. Observe it change. Observe the perception shift. Watch the limitations wash away. And so what are your choices involved? A choice of being. And observing what unfolds. And through the exercise, the more you apply it, the more you are allowing your inner tuning fork to go off. The vibration goes through the paper, which is your perceived boundaries of the mind. The vibration goes through to affect the island filings on top, which is your thoughts and emotions as you have them arranged now. And with experience in mass, they rearrange to match the pattern or frequency of the inner tuner fork. And when the two become so alike of what is underneath and what is on top, the paper disappears and the two become one.
The breaking of the boundaries, as above, so below.
And so you don't need to sit with the despair. Understand within that same space is also connection. And is not this and that. They are one. One motion, one energy, and you observe it all. And each understanding its role becomes one mind, working in unison as one being, multidimensional we. It is a mind flowing correctly. And on this we will end, so that you will have time to take care of your physical appointments, and we will tackle the Almighty God question next time. If you too want to do a session in the middle of the week, that would be fine with us. If you want to wait until next weekend, but we believe you have something scheduled.
Next weekend, yeah, Repticon.
So at this point, you can go ahead and schedule something during the week if you choose, and we will tackle the Almighty question then.
Yeah, so Thursday I want to tackle the Almighty question. Before you dip, as you know, David's been struggling with his smoking addiction, and from my point of view, I've overcome multiple addictions, and it really has been getting the right perception on it, and then, as you say, getting bored with playing with the G.I. Joes, to the point where even though I go through withdrawals, there are opportunities to reflect on the fact that I'm free from it. And it's a nightmare when he goes through withdrawals. So I basically sent him information to a workshop for the methods that I've been using, because from my perspective, it's so difficult to see my husband suffer when I know what works and has worked multiple times is right here, yet he has been too stubborn to accept the help and has been too stubborn to open his mind to see things differently and not accept old beliefs of addiction and withdrawals. Is this a wise idea to push him to register for this workshop, which is going to be paid for completely anyway?
He's already intending on being there Wednesday.
Okay.
Do you know why he went back to smoking?
Why?
The despair you were experiencing, do you think it was a coincidence that it stopped the moment he came back and
Nope.
had a cigarette?
Nope. I was tapping into that withdrawal.
You've been going through withdrawals yourself, and your emotions have been affected. He is a psychic being. And understand when an empath becomes unstable, how that affects those around them. He has shared with you that he does much to psychically tamp down his abilities so as not to affect those around him, as well as what he picks up on. And when he's going through withdrawals and states like that, those shields drop. Think back to every single time he has tried to quit. Has not your emotional and mental state also drastically changed?
Yep.
Like you're being caught in a river that's fast moving and can barely keep your head afloat.
I don't feel at home. I don't feel like I belong here.
And so he recognized what happened, and in his usual method of dealing with things, with the Brooklyn accent, said, fuck this shit, and had a cigarette, and the effect immediately stopped.
Yes. Yes. I knew that 100,000%. As soon as I started cutting up the cheese board, I could feel it.
It eased. Because his body got what is needed, rebalanced him, and the shields came back up.
Is there anything I can do on my part?
He's looking for the next time that this happens to, during a certain period, going to a hotel Airbnb for a couple of days so that he can go through the process without psychically affecting people and be alone.
Would it be easier if I do that?
No.
No. Okay.
It would be easier for him to do that because it would be intentionally in a space where he can work on it and just have his own energy.
Okay. Okay, good to know. Thank you for that.
And our